Welcome to episode 147 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak life, encouragement, and truth into the minds and hearts of educators and get you energized for the week ahead. Today, I'm going to share how to let go of the good to make time for the great so that you don't feel constantly rushed in class. Visit truthforteachers.com to get the transcript, links to resources mentioned in the show, or to share your thoughts in the comments. This episode is brought to you by the 40-Hour Teacher Workweek Club. That's a program that I created to help teachers focus on what matters most and let go of the rest. And through that process, you can begin to trim 10 or more hours off of your work week. The club is currently being used in more than 20,000 schools across the country and internationally. And it's been really transformational for educators who want to do an awesome job for kids, but need to find a sustainable way to approach their work so that they can keep doing the job they love without burning out. The club has evolved into a real movement in education. And if you want to take part in that, the next opportunity to join is coming up soon. We'll be accepting new members for the January cohort from December 10th through January 10th. And if you join before the cohort begins, if you join during the month of December as an early bird, you're going to be able to take advantage of the current 2018 pricing. So if you want to learn more, if you want to get sample materials, and if you want to be notified when you can join and get that early bird pricing, go to 40htw.com and sign up for the waitlist. That's at 40htw.com. So we are wrapping up season 8 here. I'm going to be taking a break from the podcast over the holidays and returning with season 9 beginning around mid-January. I will probably take some opportunities during that 2-month break to do some really casual, informal episodes where I'm giving you more personal updates, just like I did over the summer break too. But officially, there won't be any new episodes for a while with, the real blog posts and the transcripts and all that kind of stuff. I'll just pop on and just let you know what I'm thinking or feeling or any kind of updates that I wanted to give you, because the truth is I really do miss it. I love podcasting. But I feel like I have to take these breaks twice a year because I want to be able to keep doing this for years to come. And I know that taking a break lets me get re-inspired. It also lets me produce higher quality episodes because I feel like I'm not being spread too thin. I have those breaks twice a year when I can remove the podcast from my plate entirely and just focus on other things. One thing that I feel like a lot of people don't realize if they're not writers or if they're not creative types is that a lot of authors and speakers talk about the things that they themselves are learning. I often don't know what I really feel or think about a topic until I start writing it. Everything just sort of clicks at that point and it comes together through the writing process. And I'm a teacher at heart, so I naturally want to teach others when I'm learning. What we're really talking about in today's episode is fewer things better. How to do fewer things so the things that remain get done even better. And that's a lesson that I have had to learn over and over again in basically every aspect of my life. It's one of my guiding life principles now, but it doesn't come easily or naturally for me. I have to be really intentional about it. So I want to share what my own struggle with fewer things better has looked like and what I've learned. That's become an overarching theme in my work if you've been following me online for the last couple of years. I created that free 5-day challenge last winter on the fewer things better concept, which you can still get, by the way, if you go to teachertiredchallenge.com. That's 5 days to doing fewer things better. So I've tossed that out into the world. I have a keynote presentation that I've delivered lots of different schools over the past year and a half called Fewer Things Better. I do instructional coaching with teachers around this kind of thing. And I'm also writing a book called Fewer Things Better, which you can look for in the spring. And if you've heard me talk about this book before, because I've mentioned it on the podcast, you know that initially I hoped to release the book this fall. But I realized as I was writing it that I'm not yet the person that I need to be in order to write this book. There are concepts that I'm trying to convey in this book that I haven't worked through yet entirely myself. There's ideas that I haven't fully fleshed out yet in my own mind. So I've slowed down the process a bit and I'm focusing more on my own self-development and really getting clear on who I am and what I believe as I pour it into this book. Because it's a very out of the box book. Like I'm putting things into print here that no one else is putting into print. And I need to be really clear on what I'm saying and make sure that it's solid advice for teachers. So, I'm really slowing things down a bit, but it's going to produce a much better book in the end. So far, I have about, I think, 80,000 words written. And it's good. It's so good. And I cannot wait to share it with you. So that's what I'm going to really be working on these next 2 months is really just developing into the person that I need to be in order to finish this book and share these ideas with you. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about the fewer things better concept through the lens of my teaching practice and some of the concepts that I feel like I've already worked out and I'm ready to share with you. And my hope is that you'll be able to relate to my story and my tendency to over-plan lessons and rush kids through our day. So I want to plant some seeds for you to start thinking during this break in the podcast for ways that you can start doing fewer things better now so that when this book comes out and this podcast comes back, in late winter or early spring, you are already on the path. So let's talk about fewer things better in instruction and what that looks like, or more accurately, to start with, what it doesn't look like. I remember a truly awesome cross-curricular project that I did one year with my third graders. I had created it for our animal adaptations unit. And the kids had to design an animal that had specific characteristics for surviving in its habitat. They had to write and present about it, and they had to create a physical model of the animal. It was a fantastic culminating project. It just checked all the innovative teaching boxes. It had student choice, it had tech integration, it had higher level thinking, it had student self-evaluation. It was great. What I neglected to do, however, was carve out enough time in our schedule for students to complete it. I made time for the more academic portion, but the designing a model part was taking a long time, and it was making a big mess in the classroom. And frankly, I was just kind of tired of it after a while. I dedicated 2 class periods to it up front, and I figured that anyone who wasn't done could just work on it for bell work or whatever. To be honest, I really didn't even have a plan. So when over 60% of the class wasn't anywhere near finished at the end of that second class period, I didn't know what to do. So my brilliant idea was just procrastinate on trying to figure out a solution and keep putting it off. I just sort of forgot about the project, and I hoped that the kids would too. The problem is they didn't forget. This was one of the most engaging activities they'd done all year, and they were very attached to these animals that they had created. They had named them, they had plans for introducing their animals to their pets at home once the model was done and they could keep it. And that's the thing with really innovative learning experiences, right? Sometimes the kids get so into it that it's really hard to rein them in and keep them focused and keep to that timeline. So every day the kids are asking me, when do we get to work on our animals some more? When do we get to finish our project? When can we take this stuff home? And I just kept putting them off. And I would say things like, well, if we finish this and we finish that and we manage to finish this, then we can do it on Friday afternoon. And of course, Friday would come and we would have run out of time. Eventually, most of the kids just stopped asking about it. But there was that one kid who would have persisted all the way up through the last day of school. How come we never get to finish making our animals? So eventually I just tossed out a lesson that I was planning to teach one day. I gave the kids a much longer period of time than I could really afford to allocate to this. And then whatever wasn't done, they had to finish at home, which means it never really happened. And that's the worst feeling, right? To know that you got the kids all excited about starting something that you're never going to have time for them to finish. To introduce this idea and then just let it fizzle out because you didn't prioritize it in your schedule. You see, when I designed this activity, I knew it was going to be powerful. I knew it was going to be a much better use of my students' time than watching another video about animal adaptations, or filling in a worksheet on it, or giving them a quiz about it. And yet, I didn't prioritize the project. It was too much trouble to figure out what I should cut out. And all my colleagues were doing the complete set of worksheet pages. So I just left all of that in the unit and I tried to do too much. My friends, if you take one thing away from my message today, it's this. Stop spending hours creating lessons that you know you're not going to have time to implement. If you never have enough time to get through everything in your lesson plans, you can change your approach to lesson planning. Now, it goes without saying that you're not going to get through everything you've planned every single day. But if you feel like you are always days or weeks behind in your lessons, then you're probably over planning. And that means you're creating unnecessary work and frustration. You can do fewer things better. I planned my animal adaptation unit the way that most teachers plan, according to an ideal day. So if things go well, if there's no interruptions, we should have time to get through all of this. Well, when was the last time you had an ideal day? When was the last time you got through an entire class period without a fire drill or some sort of intercom interruption? We need to get real. All these unexpected interruptions aren't really unexpected. They happen every single day. And that means we can plan for them. Don't schedule yourself down to the minute so there's no margin to spare. Build in buffer time so that you can respond to teachable moments and be present with your kids. Think about a piece of notebook paper. The margins are there to keep you from writing all the way to the edge and running out of room for any notes that need to be added later. You need margin in your instructional day and margin in your life. Have some of that white space around the edges. Don't pack in so much. Creating this margin in your day is actually fairly simple. You're just going to add buffer time to your schedule. Now, we're not talking about leaving big gaping holes in your lesson plans where there's nothing planned for like 15 minutes. For my animal adaptations unit, having this buffer time might have meant creating more structure around the creation of the animal models so that kids weren't spending 30 minutes trying to figure out how much Play-Doh was needed in the legs in order to support the weight of the animal's body. It would be lovely to just let them investigate that at their leisure. They were learning tons through that whole discovery process. But in the real world of limited class time, I needed to set better guidelines for each portion of the project so that we would have buffer time in case things ran over. Building in buffer time for you might mean turning part of a unit into just a lesson, or turning a lesson into just a quick 10-minute read aloud, or a quick video to expose students to the concept. It might mean eliminating the second half of a project, or cutting out a review activity. It might mean looking for ways to build spiral review into your schedule, giving students just a brief overview of a concept, and then providing more opportunities for mastery throughout the year, using centers or games or online programs, morning work, review activities, test prep, all sorts of other things. The idea here is not to skip topics or skills or standards altogether. The goal is just to be more realistic in the amount of experiences that you're planning for each one. I know you want to do everything, but writing it down in your lesson plans doesn't make it possible. Build in buffer time to create margin. You will spend less time planning, and you and your students won't feel rushed all day long. Now, I know some of you are just cringing thinking about this, like, I can't skip an entire lesson, or the kids have to do this activity. There's just no way I can let these things go. But see, here's what happens when we insist on planning more than we will actually have time to teach. And I want to clarify here that this is within your control. Please don't make excuses to yourself that you have no choice other than to teach the way that you're teaching. Unless you are being handed a script and told that you need to be saying this exact sentence at 9:18 a.m., you have a little bit, at least, freedom in the activities that you choose, the order that you do things, the amount of time that you devote to certain activities, the structure of certain activities. Please don't listen to this and write the whole thing off by disempowering yourself and saying, I can't change anything. I can't control any of this. You are a professional educator. You have a degree in teaching. You know how to teach. You need to step into whatever power you have, whatever authority you have to make decisions in your classroom, and don't give that over to someone else at the district level. Any kind of flexibility, any choice you have in the way that you teach, you need to grab onto that tightly and use these principles that I'm teaching to help you take control of that. Sure, there's going to be elements in your day that you have to do that are a waste of time, but think about the elements that you don't have to do. Think about the way that you're structuring the things that you have to do. Does it have to be done exactly like that? Is there a more efficient way? Could you trim something down a little bit, even if you don't trim it down on paper? Even if it doesn't look like that in your lesson plans? In practice, could you maybe just trim 5 minutes off of this thing that isn't a very good use of students' time to make some buffer time or to make time for something that matters more? Don't disenfranchise yourself here. Step into your power. As you listen to the rest of this episode, think about what you can change instead of the things that you can't. So returning to my point there about what happens when we insist on planning more than we actually have time to teach, we end up getting more attached to what's written down than to what's happening with the kids right in front of us. We can't eliminate anything from the plan because we spent the entire day Sunday writing it. And everything feels equally important, and everything, quote unquote, has to get done. One sort of unlikely person that we can learn from in this area is the horror writer Stephen King. He's written a lot about his creative process, and he talks about how editing his writing is really just like a brutal thing that he has to go through and do. And he's known for quoting William Faulkner on this and calling the elimination of things that you love from your writing as the necessity of killing your darlings. So these words and ideas that an author has written, they are your darlings. You're greatly attached to them. But if it doesn't all fit, if it's not the most important information that needs to be conveyed to keep that forward momentum going, you have to kill them off. It's painful. And as teachers, we're the same way with our lessons. They are our darlings. We stayed up until 2 a.m. gluing wiggly eyes onto construction paper or reworking a PBL experience based on some idea that we saw on Pinterest. And we are going to fit in that aspect of the lesson the next day if it kills us. We would rather kill ourselves than kill our darlings. And before this analogy gets even more morbid, let's just head the whole problem off at the pass by eliminating some of this over-planning. Only include the activities that are the best and highest use of your class time. Grant yourself permission to plan less. Do fewer things so you can do the things that remain even better. And practice staying in that mindset all the time. When there's an unplanned assembly or you have to call out sick or there's a snow day, don't just keep pressing forward with your original lesson plans afterward. You're not going to have time for all of that now. And you have to eliminate. Otherwise, you're going to be weeks behind in your pacing. When you're really far behind in your plans, you may need to just say to yourself, I'm not going to be able to teach this as well as I would have wanted. And start going through your plans ruthlessly. Start looking for things to cut. And I encourage you to do that right away instead of just continuing to get further and further behind where you need to be. You have to ask yourself daily, what is the best and highest use of our class time? And eliminate the good in order to make time for the best. It's not going to be all bad things that you're looking to eliminate. There's going to be some stuff in there that's good, some decent stuff. Get rid of it to make time for the stuff that's fantastic, outstanding, that really moves the needle for kids. And in doing this, you are shifting your mindset from that of the frazzled, rushed, overscheduled teacher to the mindset of a truly productive one. People who struggle with productivity tend to add new tasks and responsibilities to what they're already doing. They ask themselves, how can I fit all of this in? How am I possibly going to make time for all of this? But truly productive people look at a new responsibility and they ask themselves, is this the best and highest use of my time? And if it is, what can I eliminate today in order to make time for this other thing? Productive people are always analyzing whether something is really necessary and whether it's really necessary right now. They're always reevaluating their priorities and shifting tasks around. I have a free resource that might be helpful to you as you try to figure out what this looks like in your classroom and in your life. It's that Goodbye Teacher Tire Challenge that I mentioned at the beginning, the 5 days to doing fewer things better. And though that's not focused specifically on instructional time, but rather your life as a teacher in general, I think you'll find it's a really simple way to start figuring out how to let go of the good to make some time for the great. So if you know you need to take some things off of your plate, but you're just not sure what to eliminate, this challenge will help, and it's totally free. You can take it anytime you want to. Just go to teachertiredchallenge.com. And of course, the ultimate tool for streamlining is the 40-hour Teacher Workweek Club. I want you to go to 40htw.com and get some sample material sent to you so that you can decide whether you want to join us for this January cohort. You can do that at 40htw.com. As I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, we're accepting new members from December 10th to January 10th. And if you join before the cohort begins, if you join during the month of December as an early bird, you're going to be able to take advantage of the current 2018 pricing. So head over to 40htw.com to learn more and to get notified as soon as you can join. Your takeaway truth for the weeks ahead is from the title of this episode. Don't be afraid to let go of the good so you can make time for the great. So many teachers who feel like there's nothing they can eliminate from their schedules are only looking for things that are obviously not good and a total waste of time. And chances are you probably don't have very many things like that in your day. But fewer things better is about realizing that you don't have time for all the good things, and some of those will have to be eliminated too. I encourage you to use the coming weeks to really reflect on what's good in your instruction and what's truly great, and work to prioritize the great stuff whenever you possibly can. I know it's not going to be easy. I know it's not going to always be possible. But take control of every aspect of your work and your instruction that you possibly can. Be reflective on what you're choosing to use your class time for, and eliminate as many things as possible that aren't truly great. You can do this, and it's going to be worth it. Want more than just a weekly podcast episode from me? I'd love to also send you a weekly message of encouragement via email. I'll reach out each Sunday evening with a short message that's designed to help you feel more prepared and inspired and motivated for the week ahead. It's not a newsletter or a bunch of announcements. This goes out to over 85,000 educators. So I put just as much thought into crafting this weekly written message to my email list as I do into crafting my podcast episodes. And it's entirely unique content that you won't find anywhere else online. Just go to thecornerstoneforteachers.com/subscribe and you can sign up. That's thecornerstoneforteachers.com/subscribe.